You are here on purpose with a purpose by design. I am Dr. Pamela Hinkle. It is so wonderful to be here with you today and to share this space with you. And sharing this space with us is none other than a good friend of mine, a writer, motivational speaker, author, coach, name it, this woman does it. Sandra Chaney is with us in the house today. Welcome, Sandra.
Yay! Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I got my paper, I've got my pen, and I'm going to be taking a lot of notes because when you speak, there's always gold nuggets that are dropping. And I'm so excited to have you here. Now, I know, a little bit about you, but, I welcome you, but would you just introduce yourself to the audience today to people that don't know who you are?
Sure. So, as you already said, I am a motivational speaker. I'm a certified empowerment coach, 8-time best-selling author. Woohoo!
Woo!
And recently became an international best-selling author. That part right there.
Yes.
I am also a conqueror and thriver of domestic violence, sexual assault, homelessness, being a single parent. And I am a wife, and a mother. So those two things are the most important things to me, being a wife and a mother. So yes.
Yes, you know what? You wear a lot of hats. I was going to say you have a lot of candles lit, but we'll call it hats, maybe both. You are a busy woman and you are an overcomer. And that's one of the things that has drawn me to you, Sandra, is that things can happen in your life, and they have,
Yes.
and you haven't stopped. You have continued to press forward.
Mhm.
And that is such an inspiration to so
Mhm.
many people. Well, let's continue on. And in that vein of being an overcomer, being more than a conqueror, as I like to
Mhm.
say, um, we want to know a little bit more of who are you? Who are you, Sandra? Tell us.
That's really an interesting question, because I think a lot of times when we are asked that question, especially as women, we talk about what we do as
Yeah.
if that is who we are. And you said it, I wear many hats, and it sounds very exhausting when you think about all those things that I do. But to be quite honest, I tell people I am a woman who loves deeply.
Mm.
I love to laugh. I love, to spread joy. I am peace. That is, who I am. I mean, I love Hallmark movies. Okay, I mean I love to read. I love to sit by the beach. That is because that's my peace. I love to be in nature. That is who I am. It is not what I do. Because in order for me to do all those things that I talked about earlier, I have to be a woman of peace. I have to be someone who deeply loves herself first,
Yeah.
and then everybody else. I have to be somebody who likes to have fun and get into nature so that I can ground myself when I need to ground myself, because the world can be a bit much at times. And wearing all those hats, you can lose yourself. So in order for me to make sure I don't do that, I get back to me. I get back to what I always hear God say. I get back to the basics,
Mm.
the simple basics of just simply being.
I love that. I wrote down two things. Well, I loved all of what you said, but I wrote down two things. I love deeply. That
Hmm.
really struck me when you said that, because it's a choice, isn't it? It is
Yes.
a choice. Like, we can just rush through our day, rush through our life, have superficial or just like little beneath the surface relationships, or we can love deeply.
But can I
That's
tell you, it
so
took me a while to
beautiful.
get there, though.
I can imagine, but you've done it. That's huge. So why don't you talk about that for just a minute? You say it took you a while to get there.
Yeah,
And
it
share
took me
that
a
with us.
while to get there. Because I didn't grow up understanding what love looked like. My household wasn't a household full of love. And let me preface this by saying that, you know, each of us, our parents did the best that they could. And that's what I say. My parents did the best that they could with what they had. So I don't take anything away from them. But it wasn't a household where we were hugged and I heard the words, I love you. I never heard those words from my parents.
Mhm.
So I didn't, for me, love was when you got disciplined.
Mm.
That was love. My father, he's no longer here, but the truth of the matter is my father emotionally wasn't there. He didn't know how to be there emotionally. And my mom, grew up, on a farm where they worked the farm. That's what they did. There was 13 of them. And, her parents were like, I'm providing this for you. So this is what you're going to do. So in her mind, there was no, her loving me was providing a roof over my head, giving me clothes, that kind. So I really didn't know. That's what to me love like. If you gave me something, that meant you loved me, not you just being you. If you, my father was abusive. So to me, that was love. I didn't know what love really was. I had to actually go on a journey and figure it out.
Mm. Went on a journey to figure it out.
Yes.
Again, such intriguing words. It was a journey
Yep.
to figure it out. But the end result is now today, Sandra loves deeply.
Yeah. I love me deeply first because I can't give you something that I cannot give to myself.
Absolutely.
And I taught my mom how to actually say the words. I just remember God saying to me one day, just start saying I love you to your mother. Just start saying it. And, and I'm like, she's going to think that's strange, but okay. So I just remember when I would go visit, I would come in, hug her, and I'm like, "Yeah, hey, mom, I love you." Or I was leaving to go back home, meaning because I moved from New York. I'm from New York, to the DC area. And I would just start saying that. And she started saying it back. And then when she would call me, she would end with that. She never used to say, but I started saying it to her. It's like teaching somebody else how, and I would hug her because she was never a hugger. Then she became so yeah. I had to. So that was me teaching her, but I was also teaching myself. So we were basically teaching each other, to be quite honest. But it was a journey.
That is beautiful. I'm reminded of the universal law of cause and effect. Some people would say reaping and sowing, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there you invoked that law to work on your behalf
Yes.
by being the cause and not just having the effect, not just being affected by the lack of the expression of love, the lack of knowing what that was. You chose
Hmm.
to go after that and learn how to love on different levels and different ways deeply. And that is the law of cause and effect. And then you use that as a cause with your mom and
Yes.
began to speak that out. And I always say the law of cause and effect, it's like a boomerang. It's coming back at you, baby. What you're putting out there is going to come back at you. And look at
Yes.
all the I love you, I love you, I love you to mom. And what came back? But
Yes.
I love you, I love you, I love you. That law of cause and effect, it's always there. It's God's law. Man didn't create it. He put it here. And in
Hmm.
it, and in the Bible, he used the words reaping and sowing, didn't he?
Yes.
And so that is
Exactly.
the same thing. What we sow, we shall reap. And so we need to take a look at what we're sowing. If we don't like what we're reaping, we better look at what we're sowing. If we don't like the
Yes.
result or the effect, we need to look at the cause. And that is what has made you such an overcomer. And you said that you love deeply, but the other thing I wrote down was this. You said, I am peace. And I thought that was so beautiful because that must not have been the way it always
No.
was.
No. I just my life was always so chaotic. I was used to living a life of chaos. Like if something wasn't always happening, then something must not be right. So
Mhm.
my life was always chaotic. I even as I became an adult and even as I was in the workplace, it was like people say, because I'm a multitasker. It's like I just can't do one thing because I get bored easily. And it comes from the fact of always having chaos, in my
Mhm.
life. Gotta do this, gotta do that, and always trying to make peace, trying to be the peaceful one and
Right.
not really understanding that I first need to feel peace in my own life. Like,
Yes.
and again, that's that reaping what you sow. If you, in order to get something back, you first have to be it.
Hmm.
You have to be the very thing that you want to receive back. But
Hmm.
it really, really took me so long to get there. And I didn't think I was going to go here, but you and I talked about this earlier, and I'm going to go here because I feel like it's pressing upon me right now.
Good.
So,
Yes.
um, one of the things I think my journey really began after my attempted suicide. My journey, because prior to that, I worked in corporate, America, and I was always seen as this strong Black woman. Like, and I used to wear that as a badge. To be quite honest, when people say, "Oh my God, Pamela, you are a strong woman," that's not a badge, not really. If you only knew what was going on in my life,
Come on.
because my representative showed up, not
Mhm.
Sandra. My representative was the one
Wow.
that came and was the strong one. But the person who went home at night was not the person you saw at work. Wasn't the person you saw at the parties or, hanging out with the friends. It was my represent, and I didn't really realize that it was my representative. I didn't know that until after my journey began with my healing and me having to truly face me after waking up in the hospital, after my attempted suicide. Thus began my journey of really understanding, who is this girl? What does self-love really look like? Um, what is it that Sandra really likes? What does she love to do? What All those things began after that process. And that was, I was 29, about to hit 30. That part for me. So peace wasn't even, I didn't understand peace. Not I
Mhm.
Yeah. Peace was something that was out there. It wasn't in here. I pretended to be peace. I pretended my representative, and people always saw me as the strong one, and people will always come because I had great advice for everybody else. I could tell you what to do all day long and twice on Sunday. But my own life, I would come home and no one knew what was going on. I was a single parent. Nobody knew. I divorced. Nobody knew what was going on in my life because I didn't share it. It was shame and stigma attached to so many things in my life, and I felt like a failure. So peace was, yeah, it had escaped me for a while. But once I began that journey, and I remember waking up in the hospital, and I remember wondering, why am I still here? That part. But I'm like, okay, God, here we go. And I remember the nurses, the doctors, and the social worker was like, we're not sending you home. We're going to send you someplace where we can watch you, but also so that you can really begin your own healing journey. Because obviously, they were like, there's something going on for you to want to take your own life. And I didn't know it then, but now, for me, that began community, because I didn't understand community. I didn't know what community outside of family, right? But it was like, oh, somebody actually cares about me. When I think about it now, I'm like, wow, they really wanted to help me. And so that began my journey of finding peace, of loving deeply, of beginning to love deeply, of beginning to know what peace really feels like once I got through all of that craziness.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was the beginning.
You said your representative showed up.
Yep.
That is such a cool way of putting it, that public persona, that public face. I mean, we all have the personal me and the public me, and we're endeavoring to blend them. So, the same person I am here, I'm there, but you represented that so perfectly, like by calling that person, that part of who you are, that representative that would show up and put on that face. Everything was great, that strong woman leadership. But then there was this time when that representative couldn't even show up and you end up in the
Mm-mm.
hospital. And God's plan, oh,
Yes.
so beautiful that he didn't just take you out of here. He kept
Mhm.
you here to educate you, to heal you, to show you how to become transparent and vulnerable, to learn peace, well, ultimately to learn love, right? Because
Yes,
when we can love deeply, then and only then can we experience the peace that surpasses all understanding. And you said you have to love yourself first.
you do. You have to. I mean, I can't give you what I can't give to myself at all. And I had to discover that. I had to discover what was it about me that I love, because not hearing those words, growing up and not being told that you're beautiful, that you're this, that you're that, you begin to wonder some things about yourself. And other people see you a
Yeah.
certain way, but you don't see you that way. And you're like, well, what are they looking at? And you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing the same thing, but it's like, how come I don't feel what they're saying? And so going on that journey to peel back the layers,
Mhm.
to begin to peel back all those layers and to discover what is it about me that I really, really do. Well, first of all, why am I having a hard time not liking what I see? But then secondly, what is it that I like? And then just realizing, oh, wait, I love nature. That's not quirky because my grandmother had me from the time that I was a baby. I want to say I was almost school age, and maybe around 4 or 5, something like that. And it was in the country. I loved that part. So going back there, discovering the things that you really like. I'm like, I loved running around barefoot in the grass, and I walk barefoot now because I like it. And but going back to a time where because there was a time where there was some peace somewhere, and realizing I love that. That's what I love. I
Mhm.
love the beach. I like doing nothing sometimes. I like to read. Discovering those things really brought me a lot of peace. And just peeling back the layers of Sandra and not being afraid to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and not being afraid to show who I really am. Because at the end of the day, your representative can't keep showing up. Yeah. Because after a while, it is going to get tiring. And after, obviously I got tired of it. I'm like, can I just be me? I just want to be me. And I love me today. And it's taken me some time to really get here and to be okay with sharing. We talked about my post that I made, on Facebook. It took me a while to get there, but what I really realized, this is what I'm learning, Pamela. Once we share, whatever that is that we're led to share, it breaks something. When I shared my post about, my attempted suicide, it broke the stigma that I felt. It broke the shame that I felt. I felt a weight lifted. And I was like, well, why was I carrying that? And why was I ashamed about that? So yeah, it's sometimes sharing what the enemy meant for bad. Honestly, God uses it for good.
Yes,
Literally.
literally. My gosh, you said so many things in there that were so powerful. Like, number one, you talked about how you had to learn how to love yourself. Um, could you take us just on talking about a journey? Take us on that journey a little bit. What was that like to come from a place of not knowing love, not liking yourself? Navigate us through that. What happened? How did you go from over here, don't even want to be alive. I dislike my life. I dislike myself so much. I don't know love. I've never experienced love. I had no idea what it is. To over here, I am love. I am peace. And to be able to say, I love myself deeply. That is so powerful, Sandra. How did you navigate that?
So the space that I was in, after I left the hospital was which is so funny. Ironically, God, God, I don't. We always say God has jokes, but God always has a plan. The place that I was sent to happened to be this beautiful home. I mean, literally on acres of land that backed up to nothing but nature,
Mm,
literally. And when I went there, I felt something in my spirits, and I was just like, this I could feel the peacefulness of it
Mhm.
for the first time ever. And I was just like, what is that? I remember seeing deer, and they allowed me to be in a space of however long you need. I mean, I think that was the first time that anybody allowed me to just be, and however I needed to be. And it was weird. It was strange. I was like, what they want, because they're up to something. 'Cause that was how my mind was working back then. But the more they let me be, the more I trusted. Because I think sometimes for us, it's a matter of not only trusting ourselves, but trusting that somebody else can help us with
Mm. Yeah.
ourselves.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, because you're on this journey, but you need somebody to be on the journey with you to help you peel back these layers. And that for me was the beginning. There was nobody on this journey with me that I trusted to help me peel back these layers. So it was a matter of trusting
Yeah.
somebody. And uh, therapy was the beginning of that for me. And I will tell you, I didn't like my first therapist. It didn't work. It was just not a connection there. And I got another one, and my gut never steered me wrong. And so in my gut, I felt like there's something to this. Let me see where this is going to take me.
Yeah.
And my therapist was really the catalyst for helping me to navigate a lot of this. I journaled a lot. I didn't know anything about journaling until that process started for me. She had me write letters to like my father, my mother, like literally and pour out everything. All the ugliness that I felt, I wrote it in letters.
Mm.
And then we burnt the letters. Because I could have mailed them, and I didn't want to, because I was like, yeah, it wasn't about mailing it to hurt anybody. It was really about getting all this ugliness that I felt out. And we burnt the letters and things like so. That was the process. The writing and the therapy really was the beginning. And I know that sometimes people don't like therapists, because I think you first got to trust them. That's just number one. You got to
Right.
trust. And I would say to that, just keep going until you find the one that's right for you, because you cannot be on this journey without having somebody that you can trust to help you peel back those layers. And there were times where I cried. There were times where it didn't feel good. There were times when I wanted to quit and be like, this ain't working,
Right.
because it didn't look like it wasn't working. But what I recognize is, in order to get to the other side
Mm.
of that healing, you gotta go through the dirt. You have to go through the mud. You have to go through the pain. It's almost like having surgery. You
Mhm.
have to have the surgery, and you got to cut where the pain is in
Yeah.
order for the pain to begin to heal.
Yes. Oh, that is so powerful. You wrote, or I wrote this down. You said that people gave you space where you needed it.
Yes. We
Talk
don't
about
always
that.
do that for people, though. That's
Yeah.
the thing that we have to. I call that the ministry of presence, to be quite honest. I mean, that's what we would call that now. It's like to me, the ministry, like, you just show up for somebody, and you just sit there. You may
Yeah.
not say not near word to them, but you're just letting them be in that
Mhm.
space that they need to be, whether it's crying, whether it's they're venting, whatever they need to do in order to just, but they have the support. And that's what they gave me, was that space. I remember going into group, because we had group therapy, and going into, and I really am, because I have not shared like this ever, but going into group therapy, if I didn't want to talk, I didn't have to. They let me be until I was ready to talk.
Wow.
They gave me the space. If I cried, I cried. They didn't come hug me, because sometimes when you hug people when they're crying, it stops the crying sometimes. And so they were like, no hugging. So they gave me the space to be, and I would never forget that. To me, that was the beginning for me of trusting,
Sure.
uh, being like, it's okay. It's okay to fall apart. It's really okay to fall apart. You don't have to
Mhm.
have it all together every single day. The representative can sit down now because she's tired. She can sit down because she's tired. It's okay. It really, really is okay because we all have that. Even now, I still get that way. And
Mhm.
I go, okay. And my husband for me is my soft place to land when I need that. But then there are times when I just need to be, and I get to just be and fall apart if I need to be. Because now I understand it's okay.
It's okay. I love that. It's okay to not be okay.
Yes, it really
So
is
true.
okay.
It really is okay. And it is in through the acknowledgement of that and being
Yes.
willing to not be okay and not ignore it, deny it, um, try to
Right.
fix it, but to work through it, right? Like
Yes.
we're good getting better, right? We're getting better. And to
Yes.
really being able to, I guess that landscape of not being okay and knowing that on the other side there's a new landscape that's just fabulous, and that you, in order to get there, as you said, you're going to have to go through some stuff, you're going to have to cross that terrain. If you had not done that, you wouldn't be able to sit here today and say, I love deeply.
Yeah. Oh, and that's and that part. See, the love deeply came from me feeling, because
Yeah,
you have to feel the pain in
yeah.
order to get through it. You gotta feel it, and it does hurt. It
Mm,
really, really does. But I am so glad that I had the right therapist, and the people who surrounded me to
right.
really help me navigate,
Yeah.
those waters. And I remember when therapy was over, because I stayed with her for quite a while. I remember her giving me this book by Maya Angelou, and the one of the poems was "Phenomenal Woman" by Maya Angelou. And she gave me that, and I was in tears because no one had ever told me that I was a phenomenal woman, ever. And when I read that poem and she wrote something, she was like, I learned a lot from you. Thank you for your courage. And I still have that. And I open it up from time to time to remind myself of that, that I am, we all are, but we
Yes.
have to believe it in ourselves. And when she gave me that, I really held on to that for a long time, because the deal is, you're still peeling back layers. Rome wasn't built in a day. You just don't one day wake up and say, okay, I'm all good now. You are good, but sometimes things may still come up. And I don't want people to think that, okay, I went to therapy and that was it. No, I still had, but I had the tools to
Yeah.
be able to handle what I needed to handle, and also understood that if I have to go back to therapy, it's okay to go
Mhm.
back to therapy, or get that good girlfriend that you trust, that you can just be in conversation with, and be able
Right.
to say, today is not a good day. Yeah, I felt this today. I just needed to share that, and it's okay.
It is okay. And the statement that comes up in my heart as you're talking is that we learn to trust the process.
Hmm.
We learn to trust it.
And the
And we're,
God of the process. We learn to trust the
yeah,
God of the because you got to trust that too.
well,
Yes,
you have to trust him so that you can trust the process,
yes,
right?
exactly. Yes,
Because we know that he's looking out for our good always. And
yes,
so when we come to that place of surrendering, then we know that he's going to bring us through, and we can trust in that as we go through. Well, you said it great, the dirt, the mud, whatever, as we're
yes,
going through that to get to the other side, to get to Canaan, right?
yes.
We're on our way there. We have to trust that process as we
We
go.
do.
Sandra, a side question here that just has bubbled up in my heart. When I look at you and talk to you, spend time with you, I see a woman that's full of gratitude. That's one of the
Mhm.
words that I would place, like, the Kmart blue light special over your head would be gratitude.
Yes.
Do you think that trusting this process, navigating this terrain of, as you put it, peeling back these layers, has it, now looking back at where you were to where you are, has gratitude developed in you because of that?
Every single day.
Mm.
Yes. I wake up with gratitude. And even the days that I don't, I grab my journal and I do a brain dump of whatever's going on in my mind. I do a brain dump so I can move that And remember, even if I just say, God, thank you for breath in this body this morning, because it could have been the other way. I'm grateful just to breathe, literally, just to breathe every single day. I have gratitude. Even when I don't feel well, I'm like, I can feel. Thank you.
Yes. So you went from a place of not being able to feel love, certainly
Yes.
then not being able to experience gratitude, to
Hmm.
pressing through whatever that looked like, whatever it took, you were going to get through to the other side.
Yep.
And now you love deeply, you are peace, and gratitude is kind of lighting your path. That's
Gratitude
amazing.
leads the path. It really does for me. It leads the path and reminds me to stay loving myself,
Mm,
because I'm grateful to really honestly be here. And I was not able to say that many moons ago, because it
sure.
didn't feel good. But I'm really grateful. I'm grateful because I get to meet people like I've met you. You know, I've met so many wonderful people on my journey. Yet
Mhm.
now I am in a very loving my husband is just so supportive of me, but I think it's because of who I am now, because people can't if people can only love you as much as you will allow them to, because again the representative is in the way. And
Mhm.
so for me to just be me, so I'm so very grateful because I met so many amazing people on this journey. And for that, I don't know I would if I would have met these wonderful people had I not done the work that I've done.
So true, because you wouldn't have been, and they could have crossed your path and you probably wouldn't even have seen them or acknowledged them because you were in a different zone.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow. What a transformation, Sandra. And that's so beautiful, powerful, and amazing. It's amazing when you think about the fact that God can take something or someone so broken,
Hmm.
and sometimes we don't even know we're broken. We're just going through we're just
Yes.
going through the day, going through the
Yeah.
motions, the representative showing
Yes.
up, and we're not talking about how we're feeling to anybody. We're just, hand to the plow, right? And just,
Yes.
and yet God in his wisdom, above all wisdom, looks into our lives and has a plan to bring us to the best part of our life, which is now where you're at. You're in this part of your life, and now
Hmm.
teaching others that are coming up on that trail behind you, that you've been there, and now you're teaching them how to navigate. You're in a sense the therapist, quote unquote. You're helping people, coaching them, giving them that
Hmm.
direction, mentoring them one
Hmm.
on one through your books.
Hmm.
That's what you're doing, and which is so incredibly powerful. That
Hmm.
shows what God can do with a willing
Hmm.
vessel. And I like to bring them together, because
Yes.
God is always willing, but we
Yes.
have to be willing. When there's not a willing vessel, there's nothing he can do, right?
Exactly.
Even though he can do everything,
Exactly.
we're not willing. And he knows what needs to happen in our lives
Hmm.
to cause us to be willing.
I'm so glad you said that part, because I tell people all the time, God is there, but God doesn't force anything on any of us. I
Mhm,
had to be the one willing to say, okay, yes, let's take me on this journey of healing me.
mhm.
I'm going to be as open as I can be. I don't know what that looks like because I don't, but I got to trust somebody.
Right.
So if I'm still here, God, okay, let's go. But I had to be the willing participant. I had to be willing to help save me. I had to be willing to help save me.
Absolutely. You had to be a willing participant in your own salvation. I mean,
My own rescue. Yes.
that is so good. Think about that. We believe in our heart and we confess with our mouth. We have to we have to advocate for ourselves and being a willing participant in order for God to be able to work his plan in our lives We have to be willing. We got to
Yeah,
show
because
up.
it's not just words. We can say
Right.
it, but you have to actually put the action in. That's the part that I was missing, was
Mm-hmm.
actually doing the work. Because the
So,
representative was saying all the right things,
yeah.
but Sandra wasn't actually doing the work. And that part for me is really because no one can do it for you.
No.
You want people to do it, but they can't. And that part, it's hard. I am not going to tell people it's easy because it's not. But if you have the right people, the community of people that you can trust, and it could be two people, it doesn't have to be, it could be one person. That's still a community, I think, because
Yeah.
the Bible is clear. It's like, what is it, where two or three are gathered, two or more.
Yeah.
It could be two people. Like you
Yeah.
and I right now we're in community. We're having a conversation,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want you to think it has to be 50 because it
Right.
doesn't.
Yeah.
But you have to be the willing participant. And that
Right.
part for me was the part. And I continue to be the willing participant, in my life.
Mm.
I continue to be the willing participant. And that for me is why I can be in peace because I continue to be the willing participant.
I love that. You continue. I'm writing that down. Continue to be the willing participant, not the representative.
Yes.
Oh man, that is so awesome, Sandra. Oh my gosh. Well, only switching gears a little bit
Yes.
here, but we've talked a lot about your backstory and what brought you to this place that you're at now. But I want to highlight that you're an author in the
Yes.
international best-selling book, Women of the Power Voice. Yeah. And I think
Yes.
everybody can see here why Sandra is a willing participant here and what her power voice is echoing throughout the universe. Amazing. So, what was that like to get involved in that book anthology? Because to me, that book anthology is so much more than just a book anthology. It's a family, it's a movement, it is a community,
Mm-hmm.
still blossoming to this day. A couple of months after the book has even been released, the women still all fired up, connecting together, working things out
Mm-hmm.
together, doing all kinds of stuff together. Tell us what it was like and is like to be part of this anthology.
You
Yeah.
know, I think women coming together, the title of the Women of the Power Voice.
Mm.
Women, power,
Yeah.
voice. Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself, speaks volumes because we were willing to be vulnerable. We were willing. I mean, you gotta read the book because I have read some of those stories and I am just like, oh my God, to read the stories and to see some of those women now, it's simply, amazing because even in the midst of us putting the anthology together, I still had my own trials, my own challenges that I was going through. But in the midst of the community, there were you were praying for me. I did get a couple of messages from people who were like, "We got you. We're praying for you," and just having that, not being able to really get my story together, but having someone to be able to be like, okay, don't worry about it, just send it to us, we got it. So it's like the community of that and seeing it to come to fruition. And for some people, first time authors, right? Being in
Right.
that
Right. Right.
energy,
Right.
being in that space. And even though, I'm not a first time author, it never gets old when you put a book out because you are still having impact. You
Yeah.
are still, it's still part of who I am. God called me to write, not just to speak, but also to write. So still having that impact to me, yeah, it brings me joy. It really brings me lots of joy.
Oh, I love that. Being part of the Women of the Power Voice brings you joy. Oh,
Hmm.
that is just beautiful. And yeah, the community that has been created there is out of this world. It's off the charts.
Hmm.
The
It
love,
is.
the power, the passion. Well, of course, power voice comes from the legendary Les Brown, right?
Yes.
You and myself, we sat at his knee, literally across the Zoom room, but we sat at his knee and learned for weeks and
Whew,
weeks and weeks. Yeah.
I just got chills from that. But yeah,
What is
yes,
it like? What is it like to have a power voice and for him to instruct us and direct us and correct us? Remember, if you said he would tell you and then you
oh,
owe him
you
money,
had to pay him if you said
like $10 an or something like that, right?
yes,
And you were going, "Oh gosh, don't, dear Lord, don't let me say right?" And he would be so polite and tell you how awesome your story was, and say,
yes,
"Can I do a little something, something with it?" And then he'd say, "And by the way, you owe me $30. My cash app
yes.
is." And you're like, "What?"
Yes. Oh, I did owe him money, and I sent my money too, because I said a couple of times, but that was an amazing experience because I remember meeting Les Brown, I think in 2013, and I remember saying to myself then, I don't know when, but one day I'm going to work with him.
Oh wow.
Yes, I have a picture of he and I went back to that picture. I was like, wow, this was like 2013, and here we are,
Mm.
2020. Lucky number 7.
Wow, that is amazing. So you had met him.
Yep, at a
You
conference.
confessed and made that
Yep,
confession of faith that you're going to work with him. And in 2020,
yes,
you're a student of his, a
yes,
mentee, really,
yes,
mentor, mentee,
yes,
sitting at his knee for all these weeks,
yes.
being taught by him. And
I
then you
loved
speak
it.
in the power voice at
Mhm,
his summits,
yes.
and
I
now
loved
part
all
of
of
this
it.
book. Oh my gosh. Okay, I interrupted you. What were you saying? You love what? Say
No,
that
no, no,
again.
I'm saying I loved all of it. I love how all of that transpired because I go back again to if my representative if had I not let her sit down because she needed a rest, I don't know if all of these amazing things would have happened, meeting amazing people that I have met.
Mhm.
Saying I'm going to one day work with Les Brown and actually being in the Power Voice Summit just to learn because I was already a speaker, but what I've learned is that I'm a life student.
Mhm.
There's something new that I can always learn about how to speak, about how to do this, about how to do that. So just to be in that space with him, to me was amazing. And to
Yeah.
learn so much from him because I think he is an amazing human.
Yeah.
He's just amazing.
He is one of the most amazing humans on the planet. I agree with you on that. What was it like to speak at to share the cyber
Huh.
stage with him? I mean, that's what it was. It was the Les Brown Power
Scary.
Voice Summit. And there you were. Les Brown is not only watching you,
Yes.
he's introducing you because he's introducing all of us. He's
Yes.
headlining and saying, "Hey, these are my kids," basically, and
Mhm.
turning you loose. Tell us about that.
Whew. I think it was if you would have told me that that was going to happen, I probably would have not believed you to be honest. So it was amazing and scary.
Mm,
Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to say Am I going like all those things
yeah,
were going on in my
yeah,
head? Like, okay, I have these many minutes. When people tell you got 10 minutes, you got 10 minutes. Don't go
mhm,
beyond 10 minutes. So Sandra, remember you got to practicing a lot, doing the work to make sure not that it was perfect because I don't believe that because that's too much pressure, but just making sure that it is you and that you from your heart are showing up because
yeah,
it is something that is exciting. And I'm going to always treasure and remember that because not only did I get a chance to work with him, but then I got a chance to participate in a summit with him. And again, when I look back over my life, from
right.
whence I've come to
Mhm.
that, yeah, I'm patting myself on the back, like right now.
Double pat, double pat, double pat.
I mean, because we don't do that enough. It was
True.
simply amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And who would have ever thought that you meeting him back in 13
Ugh,
would end up not just the power voice in the summit, but would end up landing you as an author in a book of women that have been trained by him, and it's really a piece of the Power Voice legacy of which we are a part of.
mhm,
Think about that. That
mhm.
all began for you back in 2013 when you met him. Well, it
Mhm.
began way before then, right? But it began then when you said, I will work with him. I
Yeah.
will be trained by him. And look at that. Not only were you, but the legacy lives on through this book.
Yes.
Oh, so
Yes.
amazing. Oh my gosh, Sandra. Well, before we close up, I have one more question for you, and then I want to give you a chance to share anything else that's on your heart or
Okay.
plug anything up and coming that you have, books or courses or whatever. But you said something on social media towards the end of the year of 2021 somewhere that really resonated with me because I was having the same thing that was being downloaded on me, and that was self-care,
Ooh.
and that we needed to like fall in love with ourselves again
Yep.
and take care of ourselves. To thine own self be true was the
Yes.
statement that Shakespeare, I know, but that statement that Shakespeare makes is if you are true to yourself, then you're going to be true, I'm paraphrasing, to all that are around you just as assuredly as the sun comes up and it sets. If you are true to yourself first, then you're going to be true to all those around you. And that really hit home for me as
Mhm.
I spent time in prayer and meditation and reflection for 2022. There's this cute little saying that I write on everything: 2022, the year for you. It's cute, it rhymes. Oh, yes, it's the year for me. Woo! Everything's going to, yes, that is part of it. But you know what? It's the year for Pamela. It's the year for Sandra.
Yes.
And we have to make that choice to self-care. And
Yes.
that is not a selfish thing.
Nope.
That is a selfless thing, right?
Yes.
So I
Exactly.
know that this has been something that you've been like ringing the dinner bell on. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to just share for a few minutes before we start to wrap up
Yes.
here about self-care.
Let me just, I used to think that self-care was all about going to get my hair done, getting the nails done, getting the feet done. And I'm not saying that that's not a part of it because you do feel good.
Yeah.
But self-care also means doing absolutely nothing sometimes.
Right on.
Absolutely nothing. Self-care could be, I want to cry right now because this hurt my heart and I just need to, because tears are cleansing. So I want to really change how we view self-care and what that fully looks like, because I was one of those people. I get on Facebook, yeah, I'm in the nail shop, take a picture of my toes getting done and things like that. Right. But self-care is also getting in nature. What grounds you? What do you love to do?
Mhm.
Self-care could be, I'm dropping all these balls today because it's just too many to juggle and I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And I had to learn that. And one of the reasons why I think I'm so about just pushing this whole self-care thing is because, in 2021, having the car accident that I had and then having COVID made me sit down, right? And I didn't
Mhm.
want to sit down because I was amping up for some things, but I didn't realize how tired I was
Right.
until those things happen
Mhm.
mentally, not just physically, but there was so many things going on mentally. And if you don't take the time to work on you mentally, emotionally, especially physically, yes, but you can go to the gym all day long and still be jacked up in here.
So true.
You got to start working on you. But in order to do that, you got to take some time for you. And what does that look like for you? Because it's different for everybody. For everybody, it's different. For me, it really was, when I tell you, because during that time, when that happened, we were about to go into Christmas. So what did I do? I watched a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies. I literally did. Like, I literally did, because I couldn't do anything, but I didn't know what else to do. And honestly, that was my self-care because it let me just be. Hallmark movies are mindless. I didn't have to think about anything. I didn't have to do anything. So that was what I did for Sandra.
I
And
love it.
what I want to say to to all of you is, do what is best for you. Don't do what I do or what Pamela does. What does it take? The time to look at what self-care is for you. It could be getting on your balcony or deck and having a cup of coffee
Come on. Amen.
and just sitting there and
And
getting lost. and whatever you're staring at, whatever. It could be as something as simple as that, but do what is good for you.
Do what is good for you. Perfect. Boy, that's a perfect way to end our time. Tell us a little bit more. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we know? Anything,
So,
other
yeah.
books, courses, anything else? What's going on in the life of Sandra?
So I'm getting ready to launch a candle and spa line. My
Woo!
own signature candle and spa line. I'm calling it "Give It to Her," and because I want you to give yourself that self care, and
Mhm,
so I have some signature candles, actual candles, and candle melts that are coming out. I'm also working on some bath salts and bath oils because those are the things I do for me.
mhm.
And I want people to do that for themselves. And so that's going to be launching in the next couple of months. So I'm excited about that. You can go to my website because that's where it's going to be. And also on all social media platforms because it's going to be plastered all over social
I
media.
love it.
Um, I also have a book that's coming out in April. I'm a co-author and it's called Alive to Thrive. And it's about 10 of us, 10 to 11 of us. And we talked about how we thrived from our attempted suicides. We're from then to now. And we share our stories about that because mental health is important and we got to normalize the conversations now. We have to make it normal to talk about it.
Mhm.
And I am working on an academy for my nonprofit and business owners because I want to be able to help as many nonprofits as I can. And so I'm working on some self-paced courses and things like that so that you can take whatever course you need and get whatever information you need to help you strengthen your business around nonprofit or just business period. So those are the things I have coming out, and just go to sandrachaney.com because most of it's going to be there as well as all of my social media pages.
Woohoo! Everything Sandra.
Yes. Yep.
I love it. And her website and everything else is in the description, everybody. So you don't have to be trying to frantically write it down or even hitting the rewind. That dated me. You don't have to have it replay for you. Um, I was in a meeting this morning and somebody pulled out cassette tapes and they were like, I have all these cassette tapes. We were all like, oh,
Well, okay. I still have some VHS tapes. Okay.
love it.
So
Well, there were folks that were on this call that were like, what's a cassette? What is that? I'm like, oh man.
yeah.
So yes, we dated ourselves, or at least I dated myself. But Sandra, it has been amazing to have you here today. You have unpacked a lot of detail, not just of your life, but given us stuff to look at and held a sacred space for everybody here by being transparent yourself and
Thank you.
encouraging people, women especially, but men as well, all of us, encouraging us that it's okay
Mhm.
to not be okay. And
Yes.
that is huge. And that taking care of YOU is so very important. You have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help anybody else. And once we learn that and we accept it and we begin to deal with all of those skeletons in the closets, whatever they may be, and put the representative down for a nap for a bit, we can get real and we can really be changed. And then, Sandra, we can change the world.
Yes. Amen.
Absolutely true. Oh my gosh. Amen and amen. Thank you for being here today, Sandra. It's been such a treasure and a blessing. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed and I learned much about you and about myself too. So I am so grateful to have
We
been
are
here.
better together. That's so true. Well, everybody, thank you again for showing up. I have like 2 or 3 pages of notes here, and I'm sure that you have them too. And you can replay this. We won't say rewind. You can replay this at any time. But would you do Sandra a favor and do me a favor? But especially Sandra, her story is amazing. Would you help us make it go viral? Come on. All you
Yay!
need to do is click and share. What does Les Brown say? Like it and share it. Like it and share it. So
Yes.
please like this and share it. But you know what? Yes, her story is amazing and I want to see it spread all over. But beyond that, by sharing it, it's going to land on the ears of somebody that needs to hear it.
Yes.
So you are paying it forward,
Mhm.
my friend, when you do that. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember, you're here on purpose, with a purpose, by design, not by default. Now go out there and be the salt and the light everywhere you go. See you next time on Right Now. Bye.
Hi, everybody. It's Sean Tellerico, and I have an amazing, a super exciting opportunity for you. Imagine being able to be part of a book anthology with the godfather of greatness, the maestro of motivation, the legendary Les Brown. You know, Les has been doing this for about 45 years, helping people discover and find their power voice so that they can bring it out and share it with the world, make an impact and make a lasting impression on other people so that they can offer their experience, strength, and hope for a better future and a better tomorrow. Now we're doing a book anthology, and it's about helping people share their power voice with the world. And Les he is hungry to find 30 people that want to share the pages of this book with him. We have 3 different packages for you to choose from. In each of those packages, you're going to get 3 different classes on really how to write your chapter, on how to present yourself on stage, on camera. And then we're going to talk about how you can monetize your book. Now, for those of you who want all in, who want to take that platinum package, we're going to have a special bonus session with Les Brown and myself. You're also going to be featured on Les Brown's personal social media page or pages. He has a reach of over 3 million people. Imagine having your voice, having your words, having your story shared with that many people. So if you're ready to take action, if you're ready to say, I want my voice to be heard, if you're ready to change the world, then I encourage you to click on the link below this video and let's get on the phone and see how we can help you make sure that these words of yours don't go unnoticed or unheard. All right? I look forward to having all of you in the book. Remember, there is only 30 spots available, so take action now. This is your time, as Les would say. And remember, it's not only necessary, but it's possible for you to share your voice with the world. All right? Have a great day, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye.
Pamela Henkel is the founder of the Purpose Center. Pamela is a mindset mentor, author, speaker, minister, and transformation coach. Her weekly podcast, international radio show, and television show are a lifeline that changes lives and inspires people to discover their individual potential through realizing their purpose by design. Pamela is a natural motivator and has shown many how to find their niche and transform their lives. Although success is an uphill battle, Pamela gives the necessary strategies to flourish, cheering you on every step of the way. Pamela shares from her personal experiences, education, and life as a woman in leadership, utilizing decades of knowledge. Taking the approach of, let's have coffee and chat, she will awaken your dreams and purpose by design. Are you ready for Pamela to help guide you? Email us at purposewpamela.office@gmail.com or go to her website at purposewithpamela.com.